Teresa, T-H-E-R-E-S-A, last name Schulenburg, S-C-H-U-L-E-N-B-U-R-G.
You got it now?
Yep.
Okay, Gary, thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Your occupation?
Teacher,
How long have you been a teacher for?
13 years.
And where do you teach at currently?
Model Elementary,
And what school districts that in?
Lincoln Consolidated Schools,
And what do you teach? What grade?
preschool, the
Preschool.
government-funded preschool program.
And we just heard from Miss is it Lauren?
Lorraine,
She's your assistant?
correct.
All right. And your preschool's filled with 4-year-olds?
Yeah, 4 and 5. We turn 5 usually in our program.
And the next year they would go to kindergarten then?
Yeah, our young 5, some of them. Yeah.
And how long have you been at Model Elementary?
This will be going on my 3rd year.
How long have you been teaching preschool, all 3 years?
Yes.
All right. Do you know a student by the name of Gabrielle Barrett?
Yeah, she was in my class last year.
Okay. When did she start in your class?
In the middle of September.
Would you have been responsible for taking attendance for Ms. Barrett?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to move for the admission of People's Exhibit, proposed Exhibit 145.
No, Judge.
Quarter C.
How often did you interact with Gabrielle?
Daily.
Did she go by a nickname?
Gabby.
Gabby. How would you describe Gabby in class?
Just a typical 4-year-old. She liked engaging and play with the other girls in the class. Just like any other kids in the class. She enjoyed being at school.
How would you describe her demeanor?
She was pretty happy. She would come in smiling off the bus every day, giving anybody who would come in our room big hugs.
Dealing with preschool, did you have to deal with toilet issues for the kids?
Normally, the kids in our program are all toilet trained.
Is that a requirement?
It's not a requirement.
Okay.
Was Gabby toilet trained?
Yes.
Did Gabby ever have any accidents at school?
Not that I could recall.
Did there come a point in time when you became aware of an injury or potential injury to Gabrielle Barrett?
Yeah, right before we had left for Christmas break, so the end of December, she'd come in with a bruise underneath her eye.
I'm showing People's Exhibit 121, already been admitted. Is this a picture of Gabrielle Barrett?
Yes.
And this was taken in that last week of school before Christmas break?
Yeah, we'd had a party that day.
Okay. And you could see the injury that you were talking about in this photograph?
Yeah, right underneath her left eye.
This eye right here?
Yeah, that little red mark.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you, did you talk to Gabby about that injury? But I don't want you to tell me what she said. Did you talk to her about it?
Yes.
Okay. And based upon that, did you do anything further?
Yeah, with any child in our class, I'd consulted with the principal, and she had said to do an overall check.
She being, I'm sorry.
The principal, Mrs. Shelton.
Okay, so did you do an overall check?
Yep.
And when you say overall check, what are you doing?
I pulled up her pant legs. I'd asked her if it was okay if I checked her legs and her back and the
When was
front.
this now?
When was it?
Yeah, about what month?
December.
Okay, very good. Did you notice anything about her hair?
She had, her hair was kind of matty. Like maybe had them, like she, like.
Is it like a hairstyle?
Like maybe she had like maybe her mom didn't brush it.
Okay, but now that's a difference between being matted.
Well, I'm like naughty.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, but it wasn't just like somebody just did like that.
No,
Like she just got up out the bed, you know, you just.
no, like maybe she showered and then got out of bed, like the next day.
Matted.
Yeah.
That's a little, is that a little different or no? Or is it just disheveled, like she just woke up with, you know?
It was disheveled, but not like naughty. Like she hadn't.
So it was
brushed.
like a design that was not?
No, no,
That-
yes,
Look at that, turn around. What do you see back there?
TV,
What's on it? Tell me. Describe what you see.
black,
And what else? What's on it? What do you visually see on it?
speakers,
No, visually, what do you see
Oh.
on the screen?
like a mirror image.
Do you see any words?
No,
Okay. I need your words to describe what you saw so the judges can see it in their mind.
okay.
So when you say naughty, is it a style where you get little knots around here and little,
No.
I mean, can you describe with your words
Okay.
what you mean by that? Okay? All right, go ahead.
It was, all I can think of is it was if you were to go to bed with your hair wet and wake up the next day like when your hair gets tangled.
Okay, so it was tangled.
Yeah,
Okay, very good. Okay.
Did you see this on one day or more than one day?
more than one day.
Okay, and do you remember approximately when this started?
Towards the end of November.
And did it persist throughout December?
Yes,
So it looked like that daily
yes,
from that time period that you
right,
described?
correct.
Okay, very good. Okay.
When you, did you brush her hair or anything dealing with those?
No,
Okay. Did you ever inspect her head or her hair area because of her hair being matted?
I did not. My co-teacher did.
When you did that, I want to get back to that check where you checked her whole body. You said that you checked her legs.
Yeah,
Did you pull just her pants
just
all
up
the
to
way?
her knees.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you check her arms?
Yep, I pulled up her shirt.
And did you check her chest and torso area?
Yeah, up to like her breast area.
Okay. And did you check her head area besides the face?
Yes,
All right. Did you notice anything else? Did you notice any bald spots in her hair?
no,
At this point, did you notice any other injuries to her head?
I did not.
All right. I don't have anything further.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. So you were Gabrielle Barrett's teacher, correct?
Correct.
And you're a preschool teacher at Model Elementary, is that right?
Yes,
And the students that you deal with are 4 mostly, but they turn 5 while they're in your class, correct?
correct.
Okay. And you had testified that in your position, you did have daily interaction with Gabrielle Barrett,
Correct.
correct? Okay. And I think you stated that, you call her Gabby? Is that
Correct.
Okay. That Gabby started the school year, not necessarily at the beginning, but maybe a couple of weeks into the school year, is that correct?
Yeah, we do home visits the beginning of the year, so we don't technically start with kids until the middle of September.
Okay. And then, when you were asked about the kind of the demeanor of Gabby Barrett, you stated that, one, she was basically your typical 4-year-old, correct?
Correct.
She had interactions with the other students with no problems, correct?
Yes,
She seemed happy, she was smiling, correct?
correct.
Okay. You stated that when she arrived to school, getting off the bus every day, she seemed happy.
Correct.
And is it accurate to say that you would then see her when she was leaving school also?
My co-teacher, Miss Lorraine, would take her to the bus usually.
Okay, so she would have had that interaction.
Yes.
And is it unusual for the 4 or 5-year-olds to bring changes of clothing to school with them?
Yes, we require them to bring a change of
Okay,
clothes.
that's a requirement?
Yes,
Okay. And you were directed to take a look at a picture of Gabby Barrett. You remember that picture that you
Yes.
saw? And you were asked about a wound on her cheek, correct?
correct.
Okay. And you described that when the prosecutor pointed at it, you described it as that little red mark. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you, because you saw this mark, as part of your responsibility being the teacher, that's when you performed a check of the rest of her body, correct?
Correct.
It's because you're looking for other injuries, right?
Right.
Okay. And you stated that you looked at different parts of her body. You pulled up her pant legs, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
And you looked, you pulled up her sleeve, looked at her arms, you looked at her chest. Is that all correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you weren't seeing any other injuries, correct?
Correct.
And you said you didn't see any bald spots in her hair, anything like that, right?
Correct.
And just to be clear in my mind, when you were discussing her hair, you stated that essentially it just seemed like it hadn't been brushed, right?
Correct.
Like it was all tangled up a little bit, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Redirect,
Nothing, Judge.
step down. Next witness. Can I get a short witness?
I don't know if I have the next witness is the ambulance driver.
That's very good.
Let me call. Okay. Shane.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm testimony about giving us the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so if you got? Please just state your name for the record.
My name is Shane Flynn with Huron Valley Ambulance.
Sit back like you're in the movies, turn toward the judge for the facts.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Now spell your first and last.
First is Shane, S-H-A-N-E. Last is Flynn, F-L-Y-N-N.
You may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Flynn, you say you work for an ambulance company?
Yes, sir.
Which one?
Huron Valley Ambulance.
And how long have you been with that company?
4.5 years, but I've held a license for about 9 years now.
Okay, did you work at a different company prior to that?
I did.
All right, so 9 years total?
Correct.
All right. What sort of education or training do you have to become an ambulance driver?
To begin, you need to go through a basic EMT course. That's 6 months approximately. And then for a paramedic course, it is roughly a year to a year and a half, depending on where you attend.
So you have to get certification as an EMTB first?
That is correct.
Is there an A training for EMTs as well?
There is, which you can actually bypass that if you like.
Okay, and then you said you went to paramedic school as well?
That is correct.
And how long were you in paramedic school?
Roughly a year and a half total.
Do you have to do any sort of internship, externship, apprenticeship after that?
You do while you're actually in class. It would be 250 hours attending in the emergency department and 250 hours working as a third hand on the ambulance.
Okay, so that's 500 total hours then?
That is correct. That's the state minimum.
And then you said you've been working 9 years since being licensed?
That is correct. It'll be 9 years in March.
At this point, I suppose I would move for this witness to be qualified as an expert in first response or paramedic.
Any objection?
No objection.
For to receive as an expert in that area, what?
Paramedic first response.
First response, okay, go ahead.
Do you remember being called on a run on January 1st of 2018?
I do.
Do you remember who the victim was in the Green Meadow run?
I do.
Okay, and can you describe how you would describe that, what that victim is? I suppose would a 4-year-old girl be an accurate description?
That would be.
All right, and the run was to 84 Green Meadow?
I believe so.
All right. When you arrived there, what was going on?
When we arrived, the fire department and police department actually met us at our ambulance. They carried the patient out to us, and from there, that's where we rendered care.
Okay, you say us. Who's us?
My paramedic partner, Sarah Crum.
Sarah Crum, okay. And last name K-R-U-M-M?
That is correct.
All right. So the fire department's carrying, did you have an identification for this 4-year-old?
Not until that time.
Okay, did you learn that or come to learn that her name was Gabrielle Barrett?
I did.
Okay. What happened after fire department brought her out?
We rendered our care per our normal protocol.
When you say we, who do you mean?
My paramedic partner, Sarah Crum, and then 2 of the medical first responders from Sumter Area Fire Department.
So what's the first thing that they did when they brought her out?
We first placed her onto our stretcher. She was wrapped in a towel. I unwrapped her and applied my cardiac monitor to analyze her rhythm.
And what did you learn when you applied that monitor?
Her rhythm showed ventricular fibrillation.
Okay, and when you say monitor, are you talking about putting those little,
It would be similar to an AED.
okay, so little pads on their chest?
That would be the easiest way to explain it.
All right, and just so that the jurors aware, do those put a reading up on a screen?
They do.
All right, and is that reading just like we see where it's that line that goes up and down and it makes that beep beep noise?
That would be correct.
All right, all right. So, and you said you got a reading that was consistent with what?
Ventricular fibrillation.
And what does that mean?
It's an irregular heartbeat or lack of a heartbeat. It's an electrical rhythm of the heart showing that it's in distress.
Okay, and when you see that rhythm, what does that mean to you?
It means that we need to defibrillate the patient.
Is that the first step you would have done at this point?
That is correct. While all this is going on, we're also doing CPR for the patient.
Okay. Somebody else is performing CPR?
That is correct.
All right. Did you do the defibrillation?
I cannot recall if I performed the defibrillation or if my paramedic partner did.
Somebody performed it?
Someone did.
Okay. Did you get any response from that first defibrillation?
No, typically we would continue compressions, CPR, as you will, go to our other interventions, and then we would recheck her cardiac rhythm 2 minutes later.
Okay, and when you say other interventions?
It would be an IV start, continue her airway or maintain her airway, and then we can give medications through the IV.
Did you give her any medications?
Epinephrine.
What's epinephrine?
That's essentially to help restart the heart.
Do you know how many times you gave her epinephrine?
And not offhand. I would have to refer to my report.
Do you have that with you?
I do not have it here in my hand.
Here, I have a copy right here. Would that help refresh your recollection?
It would.
Just go ahead and read to yourself, and when your memory's been refreshed, you can look up. You remember your refresh?
8 rounds.
8 rounds of epinephrine. Is it more or less than a other patient in this situation?
That would be typical.
Okay. How many times did you attempt defibrillation?
I believe twice.
Did you ever get any response from your patient?
No.
When the patient came to you, how would you describe her appearance?
Unresponsive.
When you say unresponsive, what are you looking for?
She was not breathing and she did not have a pulse.
Did you make any observations as to her skin?
As we were applying the cardiac monitor, we did notice that she had some marks on her skin that were definitely noteworthy.
And
What type of marks?
Anything from contusions or bruising to burns.
where did you observe contusions at?
Contusions from a refreshment from my report appear to be on her extremities bilaterally throughout, as well as to her abdomen.
When you say bilaterally, what does that mean?
Bilaterally means to both sides, extremity being legs or arms.
Okay, so she had contusions on both sides of her legs and arms, you were saying?
That would be correct.
Okay. And you said burns as well?
Yes, sir.
Where did you observe those burns at?
Mostly posteriorly, that would be to the back side of the body.
All right. Did you make any observations to the color of the skin of your patient?
Not that I can recall.
If you saw your report, would that help your get your report? I withdraw that question.
Hold on.
When you said ventricular fibrillation,
Mhm.
what does that, you said that means that it's a workable situation for you?
So as a workable rhythm, as paramedics, we describe a workable, meaning the patient was in a certain status where we can actually attempt life-saving efforts. We have certain protocols that allow us to go ahead and pronounce someone at that time if need be, but Gabrielle did not meet any of that criteria at that time.
Okay. What's the step below VFib then?
As far as her cardiac rhythm,
Yes.
that would be asystole, also known as flatline.
That's
for
when
people.
that line's straight across?
That would be correct.
Okay. Did she ever become flatline while in your care?
She did.
And how long, if you remember, after she came into your care did she go flatline?
I would have to refer to my report, but I believe it's somewhere around 8 to 10 minutes.
And do you know how long somebody would be in VFib before they would go flatline?
It would be a short time period.
It also states, did you attempt to get a core temperature?
I did.
What's a core temperature?
A core temperature is when we assess someone, especially when we're told that someone was possibly drowned. We get a core temperature, which is a rectal temperature on the patient in this scenario.
Were you able to get a core temperature?
I was not able to obtain one. We did make a valid attempt.
Okay. What does that mean to you?
It means to me that either the patient's temperature was below what the thermometer was capable to read, or is the equipment malfunction, one of the two.
How many times did you attempt to get a core temperature?
Only once.
Okay. And do you know what the threshold is? You said the lower temperature that the thermometer is allowed to read. Do you know what that threshold is?
I do not.
When you don't receive a core temperature, what is your course of treatment usually?
To continue ACLS intervention,
What's that mean?
advanced cardiac life support, have to continue our medications and electrical therapy.
All right. All right. When you're providing this treatment, you said the defibrillation, the epinephrine, and the CPR. Are you on still location at Green Meadows, or have you been en route?
At approximately 20 minutes, we decided to go ahead and transport the patient.
Why did it take 20 minutes before you started to transport?
That's our standard protocol.
What are you trying to do prior? Is there some reason at some point that you would go faster than the 20 minutes?
If we obtain pulses, if the patient went into a normal sinus rhythm, or we were able to actually improve the patient's status, at that point then we transport.
Okay. So your policy is to stay on scene and provide care for 20 minutes if there's no response?
30 minutes or paramedic discretion.
Okay. And had you regained a heartbeat or a normal rhythm, then you would have gone to the hospital immediately?
That is correct.
All right. Did you end up transporting this patient?
We did.
And you took her to St. Joe's Hospital?
That is correct.
And you signed her care over to Dr. McGillicuddy?
That is correct.
And that's, for the record, McGillicuddy. And this entire time, did you ever receive any indications of life from your patient?
No.
Are you familiar with burns? Have you seen those before in your treatments?
Yes, sir.
Have you seen, in your experience, burns that are both fresh and old?
No, sir.
You've not observed a difference between the two?
Only fresh.
Okay. When you say fresh, what do you mean by fresh?
Patients that have been burned, whether in a house fire or a different scenario, typically 911 is called and we see the patient within a half hour of that burn.
Okay. So it would be correct in my understanding that you wouldn't be able to distinguish whether or not a burn had happened the day before or that same day of your treatment?
That's correct.
You would not be able to make that distinction?
Don't believe so.
Okay. I don't have anything further at this point.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
When you arrived at the location of 84 Green Meadow, you stated that the fire department and the police were bringing Gabrielle Barrett's body out, correct?
That is correct.
Brought it directly to your vehicle.
That is correct.
So you never saw her body inside, you never saw the inside of the location, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and when she was brought out, you stated that she was wrapped in a towel, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Was it just one towel, or do you recall?
I do not recall.
Very well. And when the fire department was bringing Gabrielle's body to you, were attempts still being made to do CPR?
I was actually gathering my equipment from outside the vehicle. I turned around at that point, they were handing her off to us.
Okay, so you didn't see anybody else doing CPR?
Correct.
Okay, but then once her body was placed into your vehicle, was it you or was it your partner, Crum, who began CPR?
It was the fire department personnel that were riding with us.
Okay, so I stand corrected, thank you. And your responsibility, you're doing, you and your assistant, or I shouldn't call your assistant, your partner, Crum, you're doing the injections, trying to start the heart, correct?
That's correct.
You were doing, using other methods to try to reestablish a heartbeat, correct?
That's correct.
And during that time, was the fire department personnel, were they continuing the CPR periodically or throughout that time?
Throughout the entire time.
When you stated that you were at the location attempting to resuscitate Gabrielle Barrett for, I think you said about 20 minutes, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall from the time you received the call, say from the dispatch, until you arrived, approximately how long it took you to arrive at the location?
I would have to look at my report too.
Okay. That would be reflected in your report?
It should be.
So if in your report that, if you looked at your report, that would refresh your recollection, correct?
Yes, it should.
I'm going to hand you your report. I don't know the page.
That's okay.
You can just find it, read it to yourself.
The 911 call is received.
Just
Yep.
read it to you.
Read it to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. Does that refresh your recollection? So, tell me the, how long it took.
11 minutes.
11 minutes, okay, very well. So between the time you were dispatched and the time that you left, it was approximately half an hour, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions, thank you.
Redirect. Redirect.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Step down. Wonderful time to take a lunch break. I'm gonna see you back at approximately 2:15. I got a couple matters I need to take out outside the city. Your presence, I need your longer lunch break. How many witnesses left?
2.
2 for today. All rise for the jury. Deputy, can the jury be assembled? See you back promptly at 2:15. We're gonna go a little bit over today, okay? But maybe about 4:30. Is that okay?
Good.
Not when everybody is ready to go. You know the routine by now. I've got 2 in my hand. Okay. Where's the recess?